Now, here's the thing. Most of the best things that happened in my life came from something bad. So I've injured myself before. So years ago, I injured my quadriceps. $70, $120, $170, $220, and then we go. So I'll do 4 field sets, and then I'll do 1 top set of 2 on 270. Come on. We're back, baby. Well, kinda. Back to low bar squats at the very least. This is week 3 after my quad tear, and I'm starting my deadlift session with my squat rehabilitation. So this is the first week back of low bar squatting, and last week I did 140 kilograms for 5 reps high bar, and I felt the pain on my quadriceps, so I backed off and I did 2 sets. I wanted to do 3 sets of 5, 2 times a week, and I was only able to do 2 sets of 5 because that second set of 140 for 5, it hurt my quad. And when it comes to rehabilitating muscle tears, my biggest rule is don't train through pain. So anyhow, I backed off. It's feeling okay, and I've decided to go back to low bar squats, which is actually a little bit less demanding for the quadriceps. So I did high bar squats because I wanted to target. It's harder on the muscle because it's forcing me to use the exact muscle that I want to recover. But now, as I want to bring back my heavier loads, I'm gonna go to low bar and keep working forwards and try to keep doing it pain-free. But either way, I'm not ready to go for a big heavy squat session yet, so I'm continuing to use it as my warm-ups. But it's the warm-ups for deadlifts. Now, here's the thing. Most of the best things that happened in my life came from something bad. So I've injured myself before. So years ago, I injured my quadriceps, and that's when I took my bench press from 180 kilograms to 200 kilograms in a very short time. I did bench press specialization because I was spending less time on my squats. And I've got a lot of stories that I can say where, like I lost my job and it forced me to open my gym, and lots of other instances that are very similar. So that's how I'm gonna look at this. So since I've backed off my squats, which has been 3 weeks, my chest was hurting, my shoulders come into my bench press session because heavy squats hurts my shoulders because I have pretty shitty mobility. And I know what you're gonna say, why don't you do mobility work? Okay, because I'm lazy. But anyway, I'm doing a little bit more of it. But either way, I stopped my bench press work, my heavy bench pressing, because everything was just hurting, and I thought, I just can't hit the numbers that I wanted to hit. So the planned bench press weight was 200 kilograms for 2 reps. And I came into the session just thinking, I don't have that today. My upper body is too sore because of the squats. Anyhow, backed off squats for 3 weeks, came in the other day and I did a bench press, and I did 200 kilograms for 2 without pain, and it was comfortable, and it looked like I had a 3rd rep, and it's like, oh, why do I feel so strong here? Well, it's because my squats have been pulled back a little bit. But the next thing, the biggest thing that I've been neglecting in my entire career is my deadlifts. And the reason why I do that is because squatting and deadlifting, pretty much they interfere with each other the most. It's very similar muscle groups. And a lot of the times, if you have a big squat session, your deadlifts can suffer from the fatigue from the squats. So you won't be able to perform both at a high level at the same time. And a lot of people favor the deadlift because typically they have a stronger deadlift than their squat. So big deadlifters typically say, oh, squats are always hard. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, but I can always deadlift. Now I'm the opposite. I used to be in a position where it's like, every squat session I'd come in, put anything on my back, and it's just strong. I just know how to do it. But then when I come into my deadlifts, it's always hard. So now that my squats are secondary and not heavy, now I'm able to step on the accelerator a little bit with my deadlifts, which is a much needed lift for me. My deadlift, I did 310 kilograms the other day as a 1 rep max, and now I'm up to my new phase. So my new phase is paused deficit deadlifts. Last week I started on 260 for 2, and today the goal is to beat that. So there's a few logical progressions. One of them is 265. The other one is 270. And I think 270 is a nice number than 265. So That's what I'm going to be doing today. So this is my squat warm-up. I'm going to do my first set of 5 on 150 kilograms. If it's easy, or if it should be easy, but if it's pain-free, I'm going to slightly increase and slightly increase. And I'm going to do 3 sets of 5. That's my warm-up, and then we're going to do the deadlifts. So let's get into it. Notice that the belt is on, but it's not clipped up. Okay, so it's kind of there a little bit. So far, so good. I know it's very light, but I felt 0 on the quadricep, and hopefully it stays that way. Not sick. You know, it is winter, and I've noticed that I do that a lot, clear my throat, but I don't feel sick, I feel good. No pain. Very comfortable. So it's also like going from low bar to high bar. Sorry, high bar, which is harder technique. High bar is a harder technique for a number of reasons. One, having the barbell further away from your hips. So the closer to your hips you bring the bar, the stronger it is. So that's the axis of rotation, is the hip joint. So the strongest squat is if I had a barbell exactly on my back here. So think of a belt squat. You'll be able to belt squat way more than a high bar squat because the load is being placed closer, so further down towards the axis of rotation, which is the hip joint. But also when you do a low bar squat, to balance the bar on your back, it forces you to lean forward and use your hips more. When you're balancing on your upper traps, it's a more upright position. I'm exaggerating, of course, with my heels up. More upright position, so it's less hips and more quads. The quads are not as strong as the hips. So that's 2 reasons why a low bar squat is stronger than a high bar squat. So I did 140 for 5 last week, high bar, and it was easy. But now I'm switching to low bar. It should be way easier. And less of the muscle that I've actually injured. No pain. This is something that I've noticed with eye position and teaching people how to squat. The typical cue that I like to give is to look straight ahead because the body follows the eyes. That's the cue that I learned from my mentor, Ernie Lillibridge Sr., who's the father and coach of Eric Lillibridge, who can squat 480 kilograms. Best in the world. And so, you know, the idea of it is looking straight ahead. It's not about neck position or neutral spine or anything. It's about proprioception. When you have a really, really heavy weight on your back, when you look down, it can force your torso to tip down. And at those loads, you don't really want that. Of course, your torso is going to tip forward a little bit, but that's not the objective. You allow it to happen, but you don't force it to happen. So looking straight ahead allows you to be in a very balanced position for heavy squats. However, in my experience, when I'm working with beginners, teaching them to look forward, it's basically, so looking up is in the neck. That's called cervical extension. So that's the cervical spine. So cervical extension is also paired with lumbar extension. So when people look up, it forces their tails to arch. Now, that's not the correct brace for a squat. The correct brace for a squat is neutral hips, so neutral pelvis. So I find that when I'm teaching people nowadays how to maintain a good brace, looking straight ahead can make it very difficult to understand not to do this. So they go like this, they arch their tail, and then they go into butt wink in the bottom position. Because you lose range of motion in hip joint flexion when you anteriorly rotate your pelvis. In addition to anterior rotation of pelvis lengthens the six-pack muscles, which is the rectus abdominis. So therefore, that's not how you brace those muscles. The way you brace those muscles is to, instead of lengthening it, shortening it. So if you're to be punched in the belly, do you want to be here? No, that's not very strong. You want to be, that's a strong brace. So arching your tail is reduce range of motion and reduce core strength. So therefore, I'm finding a lot of success transitioning the way that I teach people the cues of eye position. So nowadays, I'm having a lot of great success teaching people to look down as they begin, and it depends on the individual. Some people I'm telling them to look all the way down so that they can allow for some forward torso lean. You need some forward torso lean. So if you arch your tail too much because you're looking straight ahead, try that, try and look down, right? And therefore the arch or the hinge is a hip hinge rather than an anterior tilt. So you don't want that to happen in a squat. You want brace and then a hip hinge, and that's going to allow for a much stronger brace and much more range of motion. So that's the transition. If you fail your squats, if you fail to achieve the great position in your squats because you're in anterior tilt and you're looking up, try that. Try and look down, brace the abs. Like imagine you're going to get punched in the belly, so that means bring your rib cage towards the pelvis. That's how you contract your rectus abdominis. Look down and hinge at the hips rather than anteriorly rotating your pelvis. Now watch me. Well, and then here's the next thing. So as you get more and more advanced, you learn how to separate those two. So looking up for me, I'm able to extend my thoracic spine without extending my lumbar spine. So that's, as you get more and more advanced, you learn to look up without having to do that. So that's what I actually do. I'm looking straight ahead, but then I brace my core this way. So I still have the best of both worlds. I've got the proprioception component, so the balance component, looking straight ahead, so that I can balance a heavy barbell on my back, but I also know how to correctly brace my core. Let's show those cues in action. Okay, so this is me arching my tail, don't do that. Bang. Okay, so that's neutral pelvis. And I'm looking straight ahead. Okay, another way of looking down. That feels strange for me, because it's unfamiliar. But for some people, that might be the exact cue that you need to make sure that you've got a strong brace for a squat. Last warm-up set. I'm going to get my recorder out. No pain. If you have a look at my injury, Musti, my videographer, just said to me, I was a really good bail, the way that I dumped the bar. And I thought, I don't really put much thought into it. But in my early days of working towards being as strong as possible, one of the squat programs that I followed with great success was the Squat Every Day program that was kind of like inspired by a weightlifting coach by the name of John Bros. And he popularized a Squat Every Day program based off the Bulgarian method, which is weightlifting method where they max out every day and they train every single day, pure specificity. So the idea was to max out with your squats every day. So work up to a top set and do back down work. And I used to train 13 sessions per week. So that's twice a day, every day, except for once on Sunday. And it's not because you need the rest, it's because you need a life. So it gave me Sunday afternoons off. And I thought, yeah, I'll do what it takes. I want to be really, really good. So anyhow, that took me from 180 kilogram squat to 230 kilogram squat in a very short time period. So does it work? Yeah, it did. But then when I continued past that. I don't want to say it just doesn't work and steer clear from it or anything like that. This is just my experience. Maybe I wasn't doing it properly, but yeah, from 230 I plateaued and I stayed there for a long time, squatting every day for a long time. And when you squat every day, it's not just squat every day, but it's also max out every day. And when I did that, I knew how to dump the bar. So for me, that's also why I squat from these racks like this. I don't care if I fail, I know how to bail out. It's pretty easy for me. So that's the next thing. I used to teach people on our first squat sessions how to bail on a squat if you need to. And that was me in my early days. And I thought, when I look back at that, I got to the point where it's like, no, you shouldn't be failing. You shouldn't be taking these squats, especially when you're learning, you shouldn't be taking these squats that close to fail. Don't learn to fail. And I was teaching people how to fail and they wouldn't even try. They got to a point where it's like, oh, no, dump the bar. So that's why I thought, I'm gonna stop that method. I'm gonna stop teaching people how to fail. Teach them how to succeed instead, right? So that's why it's like, should you learn how to dump the bar? Of course, because it's good to know how to do that. But at the same time, that shouldn't be your plan for a squat session. If I write a program for somebody and I write a number down, it's not because I think maybe you'll fail it and you might have to bail or whatever. It's because that's the number that I expect you to get. And I don't program for anyone a weight that I think that they're going to fail on. And I teach people to try and avoid that. Anyhow, so that was the program. That's the Squat Every Day program, and that's my experience. I got to the point where I got to 230 kilograms from 180 in a very short time. And I think that, yeah, it was definitely a very effective program. However, that was the negative. It caused a lot of pain. So I was in constant pain. And I also got squat injuries from that made me realize that wasn't the best plan for me at that point. My technique also sucked. So that's why I'm not saying the Squat Every Day program doesn't work, it's bad. I'm saying the way that I did it at that time of my career, it was bad. And that's probably one of the biggest contributors. My technique really, really sucked. But either way, I haven't revisited that, and I've been able to get a lot of great success without squatting with that much frequency. So my thought process now is the stronger you get, the lower the frequency should be. So now my level of strength, I squatted 300 kilograms with sleeves not long ago, before my tear, of course. And I believe that with that level of strength, I need more recovery between sessions. So for me, having one heavy spine loading session per week was the smartest way to progress. And I did that for the last 5-10 years of my career since working with Eric Lillibridge and Ernie Lillibridge. And that worked very, very well for me, as well as coaching some of the strongest athletes in the world, including Thor Bjornsson. So when I first started working with Thor, he had a 450 kilogram deadlift. And of course, we worked to 501 kilograms using the same principle, which is one heavy spine loading session per week. So spine loading exercises are squats as well as deadlifts. So a lot of the times when we're doing our deadlift phases, it's heavy deadlifts and light squats. And then if you're doing squats and deadlifts at the same time, you flip that. So that's the Lillibridge method. They squat and deadlift on the same day. And if they max out on their squats, then they do accessory deadlifts with a very light weight. And then they flip that the next week. So they go max out on their deadlifts and then heavy squats at a very light weight. And they continue to alternate between squat, deadlift forever. And that's how they achieve great success. Now, do I think that's a great program? Damn straight it is. The proof is in the numbers that they're getting. They are world record holders. They're the best in the world. So you can't deny that it works. However, the context is, it works at that level. They are so damn strong that squatting or loading the spine more frequently than that, they're not able to recover from. But most people, in my experience, aren't that strong. So if you're a beginner or intermediate, you're not loading even double body weight squats. Like for me, 300 kilograms, which I can do, is triple body weight squat. And same with deadlifts, I can do triple body weight deadlift. And some people a lot more. So if, at that level, you need more time to recover. But in your beginner days, maybe not. So this is why a lot of people, they look up to their favorite lifters and their favorite programs and they say, oh, that works for this level, so that's what I'm gonna do. You're not at that level. So instead of looking at what your favorite athlete does and training like that, don't look at what they're doing now. Look at what they did to get to where they are. Because you're on a very different part to your journey than what they are on their journey. All right, work set number 1, 150 kilograms, 5 reps. good one. So I feel it very, very small amount, but way less than what I did last week with 140. So what's my plan? I'm just going to keep it here. 150, 3 sets of 5. Set 1 is done. That felt even less in the first set. That felt like literally nothing on my quad, which is fine. I'll keep it there. So sometimes I get carried away and I go, oh, it felt good, so I'm going to go heavier. And that's a good strategy as well. But for today, the focus is a heavy deadlift. So one more set. 150 kilograms for 3 sets of 5 is still good. I'm squatting 2 times per week. And if I keep on adding 10 kilograms per week, in 10 weeks' time, that'll be 250 for 5, which is pretty good. And then 20 weeks' time, that'll be 350 for 5. But of course, it doesn't work that way. Do you know what I'm saying? So a lot of the times, that's how you got to think about it. In the long game, going up by 10 kilograms per session is huge, even if you start at a very low number. And a lot of people get impatient. They say, no, I want it now, and I can do more, so let's do more. Sometimes that's good to have that hunger, but I'm looking at the long game and I know that I'll get back to, if I do it slowly with no pain, I'm not missing out because as I said, this is giving me time to focus on my deadlift. And if I can come back to my heavy squats and have my deadlift at a high number, it's going to be a huge advantage. So either way, I'm happy. 150, 2 by 5 done, 1 set to go. What can we say about technique? It's pretty good as expected. It's pretty light, but I'm doing all the right things, hitting depth. That's the biggest thing, is making sure on all of these light weights that the standard for the depth is good. So sometimes you get carried away and go heavier and heavier and go shallower and shallower with your squat depth. No good. Crease of the hip, so in powerlifting, crease of the hip needs to be, hopefully that's it, crease of the hip needs to be below the top of the knee. So if it's above that, which a lot of people do, that's shallow. Parallel is also shallow. You can't be parallel, you've got to be below parallel. I'm giving myself 5 minutes rest between sets. Very comfortable day. Next up, pause deficit deadlifts from a deficit.
You have to warm back up to that one?
Yeah, so I do feel sets. I don't need to warm up, so I'm warm, but I do need to go through the movements again. So I don't need to warm up like how I just did. I'll be taking big jumps. So I'll probably just do, because it's going to be 5 red plates is 270. So I'll start at 1 red plate and then take 50 kilo jumps. So that's 70 kilograms is 1 red plate. And then 70, 120, 170, 220, and then we go. So I'll do four field sets, and then I'll do 1 top set of 2 on 270. Come on. Too heavy today. Too heavy today, too much on my mind. That whole thing of stopping and realigning and all that stuff was no good. Sometimes it's just not there. I do feel like I was strong enough to do it, but it was just not there today. It's this that I need to be speaking to. Anyway, I'm just going to do some light back down accessories, but that's my session. Unfortunately, I don't have a big set to post today. All right, I'm out. See you guys.